Hi, this is our scripture and scrapping layout for August 2025, and our verse for this month is Psalm 103, 11 and 12. For as high as the heavens are above the earth, so great is his loving kindness towards those who fear him. As far as the east is from the west, so far has he removed our transgressions from us. What a wonderful promise. So I wanted to do something that showed north and south for the high as heavens are above the earth, and east and west for the removing all of our sins away from us. So I thought a compass would be a good one. We have done something that looks similar earlier with cutting and folding things back, but it was more of a cross design than a compass. So I'm hoping that this will still be something different for you. This is the layout I made for the example. And I'm going to take it out of plastic so it's easier to see. And I had a more solid piece here. I did a little bit of changing there. And I also added a slightly bigger square for a mat, just so you could see that you could do a bigger size than what I did on the original. But this was kind of my practice, and because of the cuts and things, I think you probably should start with a practice sheet paper that you're not as attached to, and if you don't only have one sheet or something like that. So just in case your cuts don't go the way you want them, or you want to change something, you can do that on your next page. Just a suggestion. So I am doing one that's a mountain themed. I just got a save the date from my nephew and his fiance, and I liked all the browns and colors here in the save the date. And this will actually be in August of next year, so it will be a summertime. So I wanted to use some of the paper from the mountain bundle that came out a little bit ago. You could also use your secret box paper if you got that, or any other collection that you like. This would work for ocean, it would work for travel, it would work for mountains, it would work for all kinds of things. I think you could do school, just whatever works for your pictures that you think you would like. You need a piece of cardstock or a piece of designer paper as your base, a 12 by 12. And I decided to use this designer sheet because I really liked the mountains and waterfall and that sort of thing. Where the wedding is going to be at Convict Lake in California, so there will be water, and I thought, well, I like it. Whichever you choose, you want to mark a little X with pencil or pen, or you're going to cover it up so it doesn't really matter, but at the 6-inch mark, going horizontally and going vertically. And I went ahead and did this ahead of time because that's where you're going to add the starting point of your star points. But we're going to do the edges first. Now you could cut this down to 11.5 by 11.5. I decided to use 1/4 inch strips instead, and I'm just going to put those around all 4 sides. And I'm going to show you one page layout first, and then I'll show you how to convert that to a double page if you want. I will make this one into a double page just because I'm sure I will have more pictures, and I don't want to cover up too much of this page here. But I'm just adding these strips around the edges. And I'm using repositionable tape for those strips just to make it a little bit easier to move it around if I don't get things straight, or there's a little bit of overlap or something. So that's added there. I will probably miter the corners. I like to do that, but I'm not going to do that on here. But if you did that, you would just take and cut the corners here, and I'll show you what that looks like on the completed one. Yeah, I'm not sure that's exactly straight, but it's pretty close. And this one's not all the way taped down. Okay, close enough. Okay, so then in the pattern I did, I added a circle underneath the compass. You don't have to do that, but I liked the way that looked, and I found that it was difficult to put it underneath after you put the compass on. So this time I'm going to put the circle on first before we add the compass. And this is made with the medium-sized custom cutting system circle, and I used the green blade first and then the red blade on the outside. And I will have all those measurements in the email with the example page, but I'm going to kind of use my mat here. I'm going to take, I have a couple pieces of paper for the 2-page. I'm going to move those out of the way so I can make sure I'm straight on the mat. And then I want to center this circle around our middle point here. I went ahead and inked the edges just so it would show up really well on the thing, because that light white was a little bit blending in. But I'm going to just try and center that. And that's about right. Look at this up and down. Probably need to go down just a little bit. Circles are a little harder to center than straight edges, but it does not have to be perfect. I don't know exactly what size this is, but I can measure that after I get off of the video, because that may help with your centering. And these little rings sometimes want to go in weird shapes, but there we go, close enough. Okay, so now we've got everything laid out on our base sheet, and we're going to add the pieces here. And I'm going to scoot this out of the way for a minute so I can show you how to make those points. This is based on an idea from Tammy McEwen from the Starburst layout in the July virtual crop. Another advisor put together this little handout so that you could see how to make the cuts. I'm using half the size of the strips that were used to make the Starburst design, so it would fit on our 12 by 12 page. I did see some other advisor who'd done sort of a compass ray idea, but she didn't do it all the way around. But I thought that's beautiful, and so kind of a mix of a lot of different people's ideas. But we're going to take 2 sheets of 2 different papers, and I'm going to use a solid blue cardstock and a patterned orange that matches with this paper. Now, let me show you a couple of things. You're going to cut, if you have 2 different designs and they're both double-sided, where you want to use just one side, you're going to cut from the left top to the right bottom corner for one paper, and then the other paper you're going to go from the right top corner to the left bottom corner on both of those. Now, if you do I'm going to do this as number one, just my blue, and going from the left corner down to the right corner. It does not match up with any of the cutting lines here. You just match it up on your trimmer, or use your scissors if you would rather. And I'm going to kind of make sure I'm there. I cut myself an extra one just in case. Now, if you use a cardstock that doesn't have anything on the other side, you can see that I had these two pieces, whoops, like this. And if I take one and flip it over, it's just the right size to make a ray, like that, okay? Because it doesn't, the sides are the same. However, and I'm gonna do my other one just the same way. I'm gonna go from the left top to the right bottom. And if you feel like you should tape it, that's okay. I've thought about that. Especially with the smaller piece, I probably will. The other thing is, I lost it, whatever that other thing is. Okay, so I have these two pieces here, and I'm just going to stick them like this so that you can see this is the idea. Now, if you use a designer paper, you're going to do the same size, but you want to make sure that you alternate from what you did on this one so that it will fit together. So I'm going to go from the right top to the left bottom. Like this. And you'll see that that matches up to make the ray like this. Now, if I like both sides of that designer paper, I could flip one side over and we could have a nice ray like that too. That's up to you. Depending on the design, sometimes it might be upside down, sideways, but if you only want one and you did it the same direction as you did the first paper, your pieces would not fit together. So that's why you want to be careful and make sure that you alternate the way you're cutting. And so I'm going to do the other one like this. And I'm going to go from the right top corner to the left bottom corner. If you want to watch Tammy do the same cuts, she does it on that July virtual crop. And there we go. So that's our 4 larger pieces, all right? Going to do the same thing, but we're going to have smaller pieces, and these are a little bit fiddly to work with. Like I said, I'm going to probably use a little bit of repositionable tape to make sure it doesn't move around on my trimmer. So I'm going to do the same colors, paper 1 and paper 2, and same cutting plan too, because we want to be able to alternate. So I'm going to go from the left corner to the top corner to the right bottom corner. That's with the paper 1. And again, from the left, I'm going to add that repositionable tape. Left top to the right bottom corners. And those up on our cutting line. I think this would be really pretty if you have the dual tone cardstock. I did not try that, but I might on another design. So this is paper 2, and I'm going to do it the opposite, right top corner to left bottom corner. And probably put a little too much tape there, but it did not move. I'm going to stick that right there. Same idea. I'll use a little bit less. Right top corner to left bottom corner. In the handout, it doesn't look exactly like it's at the corners, but that's the way I'm doing it. For the Starburst design, it may have been a little off. I don't know. Okay, so there's all our pieces, and I'm going to move the trimmer out of the way and bring our designer paper back. Let me make sure you can see that in the camera. All right, trying out Donna's method again of having my camera in front of the mat instead of behind. Okay, so we're going to start with our larger strips. Get those out of the way. So we're going to take one of paper 1, and I'll definitely use repositionable tape. And here in the little place where you've marked it, I'm going to add 1 and line it up in that X. And it may overlap your top here. That's why I wanted to put that here. And then we're going to use 1 of paper 2 right next to it. Then we're going to do the opposite colors down here at the bottom to match the other part of this cross that we've drawn. Putting your flat side to the middle. And then you'll also see it should be pretty much pointing at 6. And it looks like I may be just a hair off, and that's going to be okay. I'm not sure what happened there, but it's close enough. And then another of paper 1, oops, yes, of paper 2 like this. And that gives you your 2 of your points, your north and your south. You could also do east and west first if you wanted to. Then we're going to alternate. We're going to put the orange paper on top of the blue this way and match up at these middle seams. That makes a little X for you to match everything up. Oops, and I put it on the wrong side. Let me grab this one, the other one. Nice thing about cardstock and repositionable tape, I could always rub that off if I didn't have an alternate. But there we go. So that's going across that way. This is going to go, I am going to need to rub that off. Okay. So I want to make sure that this goes this way. So you can see we're doing the orange, then the blue, orange, then blue, or whatever colors you use for your compass. And you can see my pattern's not exactly the same everywhere, kind of goes up and down here and side to side. This is a small enough pattern, I wasn't that worried about it. So now we're going to use the small pieces and do it the same way, but we need something to center it up here. We could use this X, but it's a little bit bigger. Let's see if that'll work. I haven't tried that yet, but I think that would, and that would be simpler than what I was about to suggest. So what we're going to do is we'll add this small one. Oh, no, it won't work because we want it to be offset. I knew that there was a reason why we didn't want to do that. So I saved a circle from one of our rings, and I'll give you that measurement. This is the smallest circle. No, excuse me. It is the middle circle. And this is the green blade on the inside. Like I said, I will have this on the instructions. but I saved that circle out of that middle. And I'm going to fold it in half. And then fold it in half again like this to give myself a little X on the circle. Now you can just use the folds, or if you want to, you could draw a line. I'm going to do that so it shows up better. Maybe make sure my line is good and straight. So this is what you end up with, kind of like a railroad sign. And you want to put this where it's going, where you're going to have your X. Instead of a cross, you want it to be like an X. And I'm just going to tape it down. It's going to be completely covered up with our other stuff. So don't worry about that. So I'm going to just put that right in the middle. But that gives us a guide for these smaller pieces. So now I'm going to start with the orange and then a blue. And you can see this is going to be up against this. So that's why I did that one first. And then blue there. And you can see that's up against the orange. Then we're going to do the opposite on the other side, across from it. So that's going to be the blue. And then we'll have an orange to go next to it. And these already have a little bit of tape from me sticking them onto the trimmer, but this one's not right there. Okay, and they should point at the corners if you've got it pretty much centered up. So now we're going to add the others on top of this, and that should cover up the piece there almost, but we're going to add another circle in case it does not. You could go with a slightly smaller circle if that was more, showed less for you and you felt more comfortable with that. I'm always using that repositionable just because of the adjustments. And we're just matching it up on the seams of that first layer. And I can see just a little bit of that other color. But like I said, we're going to add something over the top of this to kind of camouflage if you've got any little gaps where it didn't quite match up. It's a little bit off center, which mine may be a little bit. But we're going to use a large circle and a small circle. And you can see that completely covers up that. And I like the small circle. I put the small circle on first. And that is your smallest circle. And that's going to be a red and a green. Green first and then red on the inside. And I like being able to kind of frame that here where you have those four colors in the center of the circle. And then I'm putting a little larger circle here, and that's the inside of this. And I'm sorry, I missed, this is actually, that circle is actually the blue blade, because this is the blue blade inside, then the red blade, because I wanted something a little bit thicker. I'm just going to cover that right like that. And I probably would make my other circle a little smaller, but I'm going to leave it for right now. So I may put an adjustment to that on the handout that middle circle. But that's the basic design for one page. You can add embellishments like I did here on one of the edges if you'd wanted to. This has so much going on, I didn't think it needed any more embellishments. If you want to add your pictures, I used 4-inch mats, 4x4s on the other one, but this is a 4.5 by 4.5, and you can just slide them under your points here, and you can see you have room still for that 4.5 by 4.5 inch mat too, and that gives you a little bit bigger photo that you could add. I probably won't add photos to this unless I'm really overwhelmed with pictures, but if I did, I probably would leave one side open with the waterfall and put it over here. But you can see that you still see the points of your compass. You can still see some of your background, but you have still room for your photos. So if you wanted to do just a one page, that would be where you'd stop. If you wanted to do 2 pages, you could divide it right down the middle, at 6 inches, put it in 2 peekaboo pockets, put it on top of another page. That would be one way. I'm gonna put it across 2 other pieces of paper. I like this plaid. And because I want it to match with this, I'm going to add some strips around the edges of these pieces of paper as well, just to have that continuous frame look. So these are also 1/4 inch by 12. And I'm just going to add them all the way around. Move that out of my way. And again, I'll probably miter them after I get finished. But right now I'm just sticking them down. You only need it on the top, the bottom, and the outside. You don't need it on the inside if you're going to do this, because your inside pieces will be covering up that middle section. If you like welding, you could cut smaller pieces of each of these and just weld them to another piece. I think that's the end of my tape runner. I have another one close by. Where is it? There it is. Okay. And if both of them run out, I do have a refill close by too. Just always happens that way. So there we go. So we've got 3 sides. Now, I want to cut where I'm not cutting down the middle. I want to cut like this way. So I'm going to cut right here at the edge of this circle, and that's going to be about 4 3/4 inches from the edge. That way it doesn't cut through all those pieces that I taped down there. That makes it more easy to keep it together. And then I'm just going to tape this. And this is the jumbo. I'm going to actually use permanent tape on this part and tape that down to the left side. And then I'll do the same thing with adding some strips around the edge. I have no idea how much time I've taken. I'm hoping it's not a lot past 15. Sometimes I have a little bit of leeway with YouTube. Sometimes I don't. So I'm really hoping though that I have that time so that the whole video will upload. And probably if I'd been smart about this, I would have had these already taped on and just talked about it, but that's what comes from doing things late at night too. You don't always think through it. Okay, so that's not perfect. I will fix it, but then I will add the other part of my compass page to this right-hand side of my layout. And like I say, you could do it right down the middle, have it open on here, or you could have it open this way and another page would be underneath. But this is what it looks like with both sides put together. And I'm going to add my verse probably up here. I have mats. You could do whatever works for your photos, but I have some 6 1/4 by 4 1/4. I'm going to add those down first for this wider side. Then I'll kind of overlap that like that. And then I've got 4 1/4 by 5 1/4, so I could have some vertical pictures over here. So that's pictures. These I could add peekaboo pockets, but like I said, I could also add a photo here if I wanted to, instead of peekaboo pockets. I wouldn't really want to do it here, but, or I could maybe do a little bit skinnier. Whatever works with your photos. There's no wrong way with scrapbooking. So this is our basic design. I will embellish it and kind of fix it up a little bit and then post a picture of this with all the measurements and the video. Thank you so much, and I look forward to scrapping with you guys next Tuesday, the 26th.